Hello and welcome to another edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. This podcast is proudly provided by Axon, helping dealers move more iron for almost 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Axon was started almost 100 years ago out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. It's that same passion that drives them today. With a vision for a better experience for both farmer and dealer, they set out to create a better way to move more iron. When you partner with Axon, you get immediate access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. Axon carries all major brands and sizes of tires, wheels, and tracks. From custom colors and sizes to fully customized wheels, you can have the solution for virtually any problem today's farmer is trying to solve. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast Markets. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For more information, go to axontire.com. TractorZoom delivering insights. Great place to see what's going on in the auction market. Use TractorZoom's 500 independent auction houses in their iron comps function to see what's going on in the auction market. So if you're interested in doing that, use Moving Iron at checkout and get yourself a nice little discount. Also, Arrow is a great CRM out there for salespeople to sell more stuff. So I've got Shawn Hackett here with me, and you might notice a little background noise here, and that's because we are recording live together at the Moving Iron Summit here in Nashville, Tennessee. Shawn was nice enough to come down and give his presentation about the sunspot stuff and all the stuff we see happen out there with the weather. And the nice thing about that, Shawn, is that I've never left a meeting that you've given that speech to where somebody didn't come back and be like, I've never heard anybody talk about that before.
It's very, very common that say that they come up to me and go, how come no one else is talking about these cycles that apparently are well researched, well understood, and have been out there for a long, long time? And it's a very good question. Unfortunately, those that would talk about it aren't given the airtime.
Right.
So
yeah, it's pretty sad because I'll tell you what, folks, if you have a chance to take a look at this stuff and really educate yourself on what this stuff is, it will open your eyes to a whole new dimension, I guess, the best way to put it, of things that normally people wouldn't know anything about. And until I met Shawn, I had no idea what any of this stuff was. So it's really educated me and opened my eyes in a lot of different directions. So, Shawn, let's just jump over and talk about the markets here a little bit. So we had that September report come out last week, kind of bounced around a little bit on it, and kind of, USDA kind of kicked the can down the road a little bit. Talk about that a little bit.
yeah, they just kicked the can down. There's a lot of selling going into that report, and I don't really think it provided anything like more bearish. I mean, it was kind of like, okay, we thought it'd be bearish. It was bearish. Why should we sell anymore? And so you're getting this kind of sell the rumor and buy the fact. And now we're hearing some, now harvest is going. I think we're 37% done as of the USDA data. We're going to be 50% here soon, and we're starting to hear some not so good yields in the Eastern Corn Belt. Not bad, but not as good as we were hearing they were going to be. Remember, the West is so bad, the market's counting on the East to be over the top, and if it's just good but not great, then Houston, we have a problem. And I think the market's starting to get worried, that the yields are too high. And we've been very clear for a long time, the yields are too high. Right. And they need to come down.
Okay, so let's talk about that situation for just 1 second. When do you think, is it the October report?
October 12th.
October 12th. So the October 12th report came out. Do you feel like that's going to have an impact on the market? Or do you still think that the USDA is going to hang out till the typical January report to make that big splash in the market?
I think they're going to make some adjustments in October.
Okay.
They won't wait. I mean, they won't. It doesn't mean they make all the adjustments.
Right.
But the way the things work is the direction of October is the direction for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Small crops keep getting smaller or larger. So if they decide to go down in October, they're going to go down in November. They're going to go. They're going to keep going down until they finally get to the right number. Remember, they can get this. We think production in corn is 300 to 400 million bushels too high. They either get there by just doing the yield, or they take some of the harvested acres down. We think they should take some of the harvested acres down, but it's not up to me to decide what the USDA is going to do. But if they stick to the numbers of harvested acres, then they need to come down to this 172 area like last year.
Yep. All right, let's talk about wheat and rice for a little bit, okay? Side by side, you're seeing some big numbers in wheat. Rice is kind of bouncing around down there, kind of doing its thing. As you take a look at both of those right now, especially with the pressure that we're seeing upward pressure that we're seeing on wheat right now, how does that story play out for you?
I mean, the whole thing about the high-quality wheat market is we had a disastrous spring wheat global crop, not just U.S. and Canadian prairies, but just a disaster. Yeah. So we don't have any. And so hard red winter wheat, everyone's going to use as much of that high-quality portion of that crop that they can to try to blend it in with the spring wheat and make it all work out so that they get to the next crop next year and hopefully have a big crop and all as well. And that means that the high-quality and the hard red winter wheat and the spring wheat are going to be well bid. This is food consumption for humans now. If you don't like the price, you can always slaughter an animal. That's always an option. Slaughtering a human being, you have some other issues with that.
Few consequences there.
So it's really important. And if you run out of high quality wheat, so if you think about what we said today in our presentation at your summit, our planting. What if we think we're going to have a chaotic spring wheat planting season, and we think we're going to have a chaotic coming out of dormancy season for hard red winter wheat. So if the market starts to think that we're not going to have a big crop for the high quality portion for a second year in a row, I mean, you can't mess around with this. And so if they can't get it, they're going to get it from rice.
Right.
Both markets interchange. We got too much of this, I'll go for this. And so right now there's plenty of rice out in Asia. Not as much here, but out in Asia there's plenty. But if we get in a situation where there's a scarcity trade, the rice supplies will be hoarded and bought very rapidly by those that can't get the high quality wheat. So we think that rice wheat area is going to be a really strong area going into the spring summer of next year.
Okay. All right. So typically we do two different podcasts. One, we come in and we talk about what's going on in the common cash markets, and then we talk about some of the soft side stuff. So we're not going to have that opportunity this week, so I'm going to abuse you here a little bit, Shawn. We're going to talk about it twice. Talk about two stuff. So let's talk about the coffee situation that we see down in Brazil, right? That situation has gotten no better, right? They're still in the same drought cycle that we've seen. They've gotten some rains here and there, but the damage has been done, right? And if you take a look at and plus what you've talked about in your speech today at the Moving Iron Summit, it's kind of going to be there for a little bit longer. So I guess talk about the coffee market and what you see out there, because I like coffee and I don't want it to pay any more than I have to for it.
Well, I'm a coffee connoisseur myself, so no one wants to have a shortage of coffee. I don't want that at all. But remember, we had this historic drought in Brazil that was fed by the La Nina from last year.
Right.
The worst ever. The entire growing season for coffee was a drought. It's really never happened before that I'm aware of in modern day times. And then we had a double frost in the month of July, the first frost in 26 years. We've never had a drought and a frost. There's no data point you can go to and say, well, this is what we can expect. So the market doesn't know what to think. So we had this big run-up, and we've had this kind of correction, and we're just waiting for the first flowering. The first flowering is the big flowering that sets the potential for the next crop. The first major rains looks to us is going to occur early October and provide the first flowering. We think the market is waiting to confirm that flowering is going to not be good. We think they're unwilling to take the market higher just because they have no data point to go by. So you know what? Let's just see the first flowering. But our view, the first flowering is going to be really, really bad. And then we're going to go to a hot, dry pattern for the back half of October. And if you don't get follow-on rains in the coffee flowering, then a lot of those flowers will abort and fall off and not produce any coffee. So we think if we're looking at the timing of coffee to really advance to its next wave higher, we think from mid-October onward, when that recognition that first flowering is not happening, then there's no way to make the crop what it needs to be. Then it's a really wild ride to the next level. We have to demand ration coffee is what we have to do. Remember, in the pandemic year of 2020, every single commodity had down year for demand, except coffee was up marginally. So if we couldn't knock coffee demand down in a pandemic, you know how hard it is to hurt coffee demand. I'm not saying it can't be done, but $1.90 or $1.85 is not going to do it.
Right. All right. So now let's jump over and take a look at sugar market. Sugar market is, right in the middle of sugar beet harvest in those key growing areas of the, those 5 major sugar beet growing areas of the United States. Right now, my reports that I'm getting out of the Panhandle of Nebraska are tons are there, sugar's there. It's not what they thought it was going to be, but it's still better than what they've had in several years. Last year, with the early frost we had, the United States sugar supply wasn't nearly as big as it was. We had to import a little sugar in from those kind of places. But as you take a look at what's been going on in Brazil, for example, with some frost that you see there, now that's one thing. But you take a look at over in like India, Thailand, those areas where sugar cane is harvested, they're having some decent years. So let's talk about sugar and what you see happening there.
Well, the same drought that impacted the coffee crop in Brazil also impacted the sugar crop.
Okay.
And even though a frost normally doesn't actually necessarily hurt sugar because it increases sugar content, it was 2 in a row. And if you don't harvest or cut the sugar pretty quickly, then you start to lose yield even with higher sugar content. Yeah. And so they weren't able to get in there because we had a frost not too far afterwards and they had to stay out of the field. So so that caused a major shortage. They're the number 1 exporter of sugar in the world, and if they go down, you have a problem. And we've been dealing with that. We're up 20 cents now from 10 cents a year ago. So, but right around the corner is a very, very good Indian crop and a very, very good Thailand crop. Those are 2 big exporters of sugar. And so we're going to see, it doesn't mean that removes the shortage, but it's certainly going to ease it for a while. So we're thinking that, their supplies start coming in the month of November. So we're thinking that, the market's going to start anticipating that new supply. So we're thinking, September could be a place where the market tops out and it has a correction. And then once again, you put enough of the sugar away, you harvest pressure, you export what you have to export, and then we could find a low and then tighten the market again. But we think right now we're probably near a top for now. If I'm in the sugar business, I might be making some cash sales here.
Yeah.
So
okay. One thing that we haven't talked about much, and shame on me for not doing it, but the dairy market, as you take a look what's going on there, that dairy price has come way down. We're in the 16s right now, some bouncing around 17, but it's hovering in that $16 mark. It's a struggle for a lot of guys at that particular price point to really make those margins happen. So just talk about what you see happening in the dairy market and some of the drivers there.
Well, we have to remember the context. Last year, the government food box program goosed the milk price with what we call artificial demand. It wasn't real demand. And it was great while it lasted. But after a good party, the hangover can be brutal. And when in May they said they're going to stop doing that, then the market had to come down to find where the real buyer was willing to pay for milk. And we think the 17 area, upper 16 area, is an area that we're finding demand coming back again. We've stabilized. We've bounced off a little. We think we're in the process of putting a low in the market. Doesn't mean we're expecting some crazy wild upside yet, but we think we put in a low and we can work our way higher into the strong demand part of the season here, into the holidays. So we think the worst is over. We're at a level, as you said, uneconomical. No one's making any money. Production's starting to be cut back. And so the market's doing what it's doing. It's slowing down this production that never should have grown this fast had the government meddling not got involved.
Yeah.
So the bad news is that happened. The good news is I think we're clearing the decks and we're setting up for some better pricing this fall.
Right. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about cotton a little bit. So you've had 2 different hurricanes. Ida come through, dumped a bunch of rain. You got the next one coming in that's supposed to hit landfall any time now, and they're still kind of projecting that to go through Texas. As we've talked about here before, cotton's way behind schedule, about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on where you're at. Do you still look to see, like this next hurricane that comes through, you're talking like 24 inches of rain and this kind of stuff. Talk about that a little bit, how you see it's going to impact cotton.
Yeah, I mean, the crop is still very vulnerable because it's late developing, very vulnerable. So, once again, it all depends, where that storm exactly tracks, but if it tracks in the wrong area, it could still cause some significant quality damage. Remember, the reason that demand for U.S. cotton is so strong, typically from Asia, is because we grow high-quality cotton that the rest of the world does not grow. But if we lose that quality advantage, then we have to discount the price to reflect the lower quality portion of it. So it's a big problem. Doesn't mean necessarily that the volume comes down that much. It will, but it really means that the volume of high quality cut comes down a lot, and that ruins our market for who we sell to. Because the Chinese buy the high quality and they mix it with their low quality, and then they do what they do. They wouldn't be able to do that to the same degree that they're doing it right now, and so that's something to pay attention to. The hurricane season usually has its final peak in mid-October. So until we get to mid-October or beyond that, there's still, we're not out of the woods, and it just looks like this year those storms just want to track in the deep south. It just, that's just a track for whatever reason. That's where it's going. And South Florida so far, where I live, it has gone to the west, it's gone to the east, and it's left us alone. So, not that I'm wishing bad on anyone, but I certainly don't want a hurricane where I live. That's for sure.
No, I can understand that. So, well, good stuff as usual, Shawn. If folks want to reach out to you and get more information about what you're doing, or want to sign you up to be a speaker at one of their events, what's the best way to do that?
Our website is Hackett, Hackett, advisors.com. We have podcasts, we have white papers, we have sample reports. We have information on how you can use our booking agent to book us to do some of these meetings, which right now would be incredibly timing-wise that you can still take positive action. So lots of stuff on there to see if what we do might be of value to who's listening to your show.
Outstanding. Well, I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you're going to find the latest editions of the Moving Iron Podcast, as well as any blogs I have posted out there will get shown up there as well. So also go to MovingIronLLC.com, and you'll get all the information about everything that is Moving Iron Podcast. So with that, I am Casey Seymour with Shawn Hackett. Let's go with some iron, folks. Out.
You want to have a meaningful competitive advantage to help sell more equipment. Whether you represent the sales, parts, or management department of an implement dealership, there's a surprising amount of complexity when it comes to tire, wheel, and track technology. Let Axon worry about that so you can get back to supporting your customers. Axon has leveraged years of experience to create a streamlined process that gives you a proven path to help today's grower and sell more equipment. The roots of their organization go back almost 100 years to the invention of the rubber tractor tire. Supporting agriculture is the number one driver of Axon, from product development through sales and service. To find more or become an Axon dealer, head over to agmarkets.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for